All right. What's going on, everybody? We're about to get ready to get started in just a minute. We're going to get this show on the road as we get ready to talk a lot of football today. As y'all can see, actually, that's the wrong one. Thought I had the right one. Y'all give me just a minute. We are going to get started in just a few seconds. All right. Yeah, we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. And we have a lot of football that we're gonna be talking about. And we're definitely gonna be talking about this the big news in the NFL today that was coming out about got the news coming out about Harold Landry getting a big contract. Also, um, some cut, Aaron Rodgers getting the big deal, and also Russell Wilson being traded as well. So that's stuff that we're going to definitely be talking about. And so make sure y'all share this show out to everybody. Make sure you also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also make sure you hit the like button. And we're going to be getting ready to get started in just under 60 seconds. Good evening, Titan Nation. How's everybody? Good evening, Titan Nation. How's everybody doing? Welcome into a brand new edition of Titans and Truth. I'm your man, Chris, aka Blue Enforcer. We're going to have a very good episode for you on this evening. As y'all see on the screen, this is what we have for tonight's show. As you can see, a couple of big things happened in the NFL yesterday, involving a couple of quarterbacks. And I had a different layout for the show in regards to a certain Tennessee Titan, but I had to kind of do an about face, simply with the fact that things ended up being changed as far as that was concerned. So we'll talk about Harold Landry getting extended instead of not getting the franchise tag. So we'll talk about that. Also in about 30 minutes, we'll have my guy, the one and only Mr. Kim Moore, is going to be hopping on for just a bit to also give his thoughts on some things that are happening with Harold Landry getting re-signed and some of these moves that have been made. So that's basically the layout of the show for tonight. Glad I can have y'all with me. Thank y'all for tuning in to the show. But again, make sure that before we do get started, definitely make sure y'all share this show out. Share it out to everybody on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Definitely make sure y'all definitely do that. Share it out. You're helping me with that, and you're helping yourselves as well, so that everybody can get in on the fun of this show. And also, if you haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button. Definitely smash that so that you show that you're supporting the show. We want to get 50 likes tonight. That's the plan on this show. So make sure we get those likes up. Smash that like button. And that'll definitely be great. I would really appreciate that as well. And if you haven't also already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also tag that bell. So that way you're subscribed to the channel and you hit the bell. So that way you get notified when new content is coming out. So that way you'll know when I'm live. You'll know when everything is going to be going on. So that way you're in the know of what's happening. So I would greatly appreciate that. So I see we have a few people up in here. Let's see what we got. We got we got Titan Pratt. What's up with you, sir? DO9 Truth. What's good? I can finally say I'm 100% over the Bengals loss. Well, I'm glad you are. I'm not 100% over it yet. There's still work that needs to be done. So I am definitely not over it just yet. But I mean, I'm getting there. It is not very easy to deal with. It's not very easy to put up with. And y'all forgive me, I'm actually trying to find a particular article that I need for this show. I thought I had it, but for some reason I didn't. So, but let's go ahead. We're not going to waste any more time. Again, make sure y'all also go follow on Facebook, the Titans and Truth main official page, also the TNT Enforcers fan page. You got the Instagram at Titans_in_truth, and on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer. Of course, super chats and are appreciated. And also, if you can't get through with the super chat, you can also hit up my Cash App at $Blue Enforcer if you want to give to the show. That way, you're helping me provide even better content for you, and perhaps I might be able to get a better microphone that won't go out on me in and out as much as short out. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be trying to take care of as well, is getting maybe some new equipment and stuff like that. So I got a few ideas in store that I'm going to be working on. So definitely make sure y'all help me out with that if you are able to do so. But let's go ahead and get into the big breaking news that we had up first. First, I want to start off with this. So the Titans did use the franchise tag on Harold Landry to begin the offseason. And of course, my first initial thought was, oh my God, why did they not do this? Why did they not put the franchise tag on Harold Landry? And so, yes, I'm not going to lie. And I've had some people call me out on it. So I'm going to man up. Yes, I did panic. Yes, I did jump the gun and was like, oh my God, Harold Landry didn't get the franchise tag. What are the Titans doing? What is J-Rob thinking? And all this and that. And the reason I think I felt that way is because, yes, the franchise tag was $18.7 million, which would have counted against the cap immediately. And the thing that I was thinking is you go ahead, franchise tag Harold Landry, then that way you have more time to work out a long-term deal. But they did not do that. And so, yes, I was worried because instead of having about 3 months to do the job, now you only have about 5 or 6 days. And if you don't get a deal done, before Monday, then Harold Landry is probably gone because somebody's going to offer more money. So that was my initial thoughts when the franchise tag did not happen. And shout out, by the way, first of all, to my homegirl, one of my best friends, Miss Crystal Hayward. She is so kind. She helped hook me up with this. And shout out to my girl, Miss Dolly, at Just Call Me Dolly on Instagram. She actually made this for me, and of course has the Titans of Truth. Has Titans of Truth in the middle, and also has my Instagram, my regular Instagram at Blue Enforcer 1914. But that was, of course, she got that. She didn't get my Titans and Truth Instagram, but that's fine. You can follow me there too. So shout out to my girl Dolly for hooking me up with making this for me and everything. This is my good drink can, and everything. So I definitely appreciate Dolly hooking me up with that. Much appreciated on that. So yes, no franchise tag for Harold Landry, and it did kind of freak me out a bit. So I see we got 10 Torch in here. What's up with you? Ian says, I'm not over that loss at all. I understand that. And I know we got Ola Struck in the building. Appreciate you joining us. I know you had church and everything, but I'm glad you're with us, Ola Struck. And as many of you continue to file in, come on in and join us and things like that. So, yeah, was in a little bit of a panic when Harold Landry was not tagged. However, my doubts and my fears were put to rest because of this. That was when, and y'all probably heard me a little bit on Ken Moore's show last night. I came on live from the Grizzlies game last night as the Grizzlies beat up on the Pelicans 132 to 111. Shout out to Ja Morant and the Grizzlies, by the way, second best team in the Western Conference. But I went on because while I was at the game, that's where this news broke, where the Tennessee Titans and Harold Landry agreed to a 5-year, $87.5 million contract extension with $52.5 million guaranteed. So that really comes out to about $17.5 million per year, just about $1 million more than Bud Dupree. And remember, that's all really what Harold Landry wanted, was that he wanted to be the highest paid player in the room, in the meeting room. He wasn't talking about highest paid defensive player. He was talking about highest paid linebacker, and that's what happened. So when I saw this news come out, I was so relieved. I was extremely relieved. I felt better. I was like, okay, Christ, and I posted it on Facebook, on all of my social media. I said, hey, this was done, crisis avoided, so I'm much better now than I was. I am much better than I was, I would say, 24 hours ago when this deal came out. So basically what this is, and if I'm not mistaken, you know, when TD, how TD always says it, you don't really look at the whole length of the contract, you look at the guaranteed money. And so $52.5 million, and if you're getting paid about $17.5 million a year, that basically covers about the first 3 years of the contract for Harold Landry. So it looks like, according to this contract, they have an out after year 3 if, let's say, Harold Landry is not as durable or he ends up faltering a little bit in his play, which, I mean, I don't think he will. I don't think he will falter like that or anything, but that is, that's something we have to actually worry about is does does he falter down the stretch? I mean, he's only missed one start in 4 years. He had 12 and a half sacks. He had 12 sacks last year. And I mean, he steadily improved. And so I, just thought this was a good deal, in my honest opinion. I think this is a very good deal for the Tennessee Titans. And I just think that this was smart that the Tennessee Titans decided to go ahead and get this done. Keep this pass rush together because that was the strength of, I would say, the strength of this team, not just of the defense, but of this team is the pass rush. And so I just thought that was the best idea. You got Bud Dupree, you got Danico Autry last year, you're keeping Harold Landry, and I know next year, most likely, in May, I believe, you have the decision of picking up the 5th-year option on Big Jeff, which is around, I believe, $10.7 million, which the Titans are obviously going to pick that up for a 5th year. But I'm pretty sure they're going to try to get a long-term deal done with both Big Jeff and A.J. Brown as well. And Big Jeff is probably going to command about $20 million. And like I said with Harold Landry, pay that man. So I am extremely satisfied as far as I'm concerned with Harold Landry getting extended with this deal and keeping that defensive front together, because the way, our offense probably not going to be great out of the gate again. There are going to probably be some struggles. And so the defense is going to have to carry them early. And that's why I think this deal is so paramount. And now, when you really think about it, going into the offseason, you really don't need to do anything with the defense. You really don't need to add anything. I mean, yeah, you could probably get, I would probably say maybe a depth pass rusher or inside linebacker in the draft, maybe another corner in the draft, or, a low-level corner in free agency who could be like that 4th or 5th corner or something like that. And we'll definitely talk about free agency in just a little bit. But we had to break that news about Harold Landry. Also, of course, today, the Titans signed 1-year deals with their exclusive free agents, NWI Nick Westbrook-Akina, Logan Woodside, whoop-de-freaking do on those two, but Teair Tart as well. And that, again, defensive line. Teair Tart had some good moments as well. So, again, you're keeping this front together. And, again, when you have a good pass rusher, you don't let them get to free agency, because pass rush is an extremely premium position. And that is one you cannot let go. So congrats to Harold Landry. He got that bag. That man got paid. Thank goodness on that. Good job, J-Rob. And, Titan Pride is right, because I believe Jarrett came out with an email, with a tweet, and he basically said he talked to his agent, I believe his name is Tom Condon of CAA, and basically said Harold Landry wasn't going anywhere else at all. He was going to be staying in Tennessee. Pretty much that was guaranteed. And TD basically said the same thing, that there is progress. There's optimism that a deal will get done. So right after the tag deadline happened, 5 hours later, a deal is done. So he wanted to stay here. he is staying here, and I am so happy about it. So, Ian asked me about my thoughts on Tart NWI Woodside. I would say the most important was Tierre Tart, keeping that defensive line together. And Tart is a pretty good player. I like Tart. As a nose tackle, he can eat up blocks, open things up for Big Jeff, for Danico, also for Bud and Harold Landry. So he does open things up. NWI, I mean, for special teams and to be maybe a fourth or fifth receiver or something like that. But I hope he doesn't have to play meaningful snaps again. But I mean, Nick Westbrook caught most of the ball thrown at him. I just hated the fact that Ryan Tannehill fell so in love with Nick Westbrook, he would go to him before AJ or Julio. I didn't like that. Woodside, I think Woodside, again, these are all one-year deals. These are deals they could probably get out of. So if you draft a quarterback and he looks better than Woodside, you could throw Woodside away at some point. So not really a concern with that. That's why I was like, whoop the freaking do. And so that's what I have to feel about that. But and I'm just, again, happy with Harold Landry getting that money. A lot of the other players, I think, were very happy for him. Big Jeff, congratulated him as well on Twitter. And actually, here is, and the tweet, the official news actually came, I want to say, from Tom Pelissero. I had that up, but I'm sorry. We're going to keep going with that. But that was coming from Tom Pelissero. TD, of course, confirmed it, and others confirmed it as well. So shout out to Harold Landry for getting his money. Now, of course, that was not the biggest news of the day. First off was something that I think was pretty obvious. I know this broke a few hearts. Was this. Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay and has agreed to a 4-year, $200 million contract extension, which I believe over $150 million is guaranteed to Aaron Rodgers. So A-Rod decides to stay in Green Bay, which in retrospect, that was probably what was going to happen all along. We figured, I know we talked a little bit about, A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers possibly coming to the Tennessee Titans. I know, of course, he bought a house, bought land in Brentwood and everything. So, of course, the possibilities, it looked like there might have been a possibility that Aaron Rodgers would come to Tennessee. But, I talked about it, would have been nice, would have been a nice dream, but I wasn't going to believe it until I saw it. And it was pretty predictable what was going to happen. And it looked like the Titans were never really had a real shot at Aaron Rodgers because it was either he was going to retire, stay in Green Bay, or end up in Denver. And, obviously this was, Aaron Rodgers is a diva. He is a drama queen. I don't know, I can't remember who it was. Charles Barkley was basically like, Aaron Rodgers is that pretty girl that you have to keep telling her she's pretty, that she's beautiful all the time. You got to keep gassing up his head. And we all know A-Rod is a drama queen. We know that. So, I'm sorry, can y'all hear me? Let me make sure y'all can hear me. If y'all can't hear me, let me know. With that, and I will make sure everything is okay. I think my audio is coming good here, so I think we're all right. So we're gonna keep going. But y'all let me know if y'all can't hear me at all, and I'll get that fixed up. But I think my mic is still good. So everything is good. So yeah, he's a drama queen. We all know this. He basically did this to hold out that Green Bay was going to pay him more money. So that's what happened. Aaron Rodgers got what he wanted. He's getting paid about $50 million. He's the highest paid, per year average. He has the highest paid average per year of any player at $50 million. Again, Patrick Mahomes has the richest contract, 10 years, $450, but Aaron Rodgers got you've never heard of $200 million contracts in the NFL till now. These are like super maxes in the NBA. So this is a pretty big deal. But Aaron Rodgers got what he wanted. He got his money. He stays in Green Bay. And, that is that. And I know Chris Frazier is extremely happy right now with the fact that Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay. And also other news that happened, as soon as the Broncos were out on Aaron Rodgers and they couldn't get him, I think they panicked a little bit and they ran and got Russell Wilson. Now, the Aaron Rodgers thing, I was not shocked about at all. This one I was shocked about. I did not see this one coming. I figured Russell Wilson would get traded. I didn't think Denver was the team to do it. But hey, Russell Wilson gets traded to the Denver Broncos. And I mean, again, this sent shockwaves through the NFL when this actually happened. So Russell Wilson now goes into the AFC West along with Patrick Mahomes. You got a resurgent Derek Carr with the Raiders, and also a very improving and up-and-coming Justin Herbert with the Chargers. So the AFC West is stacked. And the problem for the Tennessee Titans, and both of these trade, and both the Aaron Rodgers deal and the Russell Wilson trade does affect the Tennessee Titans. Why? We play Green Bay this season in Lambeau again. And we play the entire AFC West, which includes a home game against these same Broncos. So we're going to have to play Russell Wilson. We're going to have to play all four of those quarterbacks this season, including Russell Wilson. And so look at the haul that Seattle got in this deal. So now Seattle they get the number 9 pick in this year's draft. They get the number 40 pick, the second round pick. They get Denver's first and second round pick this year. So that's number 9 overall and number 40 overall. They get a 5th round pick this year, but they also give up their first and second round picks in 2023 as well. And they also gave up their quarterback Drew Lock, their tight end Noah Fant, and defensive tackle Shelby Harris. So Denver gave up the farm for Russell Wilson. They gave, it's basically a king's ransom. That is exactly what they gave up. And now Seattle, they lost their first round pick to the Jets for Jamal Adams. So now they essentially got a first round pick back, and they're in a better position. They would have been in the top 10, but that goes to the Jets for Jamal Adams, and now they get a first round pick back for Russell Wilson, and now they have 2 second round picks back to back. They got 2 second rounders back to back, and then they will have 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s next season as well. So I think Denver gave up way too much for Russell Wilson, but he is a future Hall of Famer. And I honestly think Seattle fleeced Denver. I think Denver got seriously fleeced. But we will see if that is the case. If Denver is doing really well, it may be all worth it. Denver, they're desperate. You could tell they were desperate, especially losing out on Aaron Rodgers, and they know they had to do something to compete with a Raider team that made the playoffs. We know the Chargers are coming. They just barely missed out on the playoffs, and we know Kansas City is the top dog in that division. But it does help because you know what? It doesn't guarantee Kansas City's going to win that division. Denver has made it a lot tougher for Kansas City to just outright win the division. So I was shocked by that with the Broncos getting Russell Wilson, but it's going to be nice to see Russell Wilson versus Pat Mahomes twice a year and to see him, play against the AFC West twice a year. I think that's going to be fun football-wise. And so it looks like I have our special guest coming in now. I give to some and present to others the one and only from ESPN3, our very own Mr. Ken Moore. Ken, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. And we were just talking about we were definitely just talking about Russell Wilson heading to Russell Wilson heading to the Denver Broncos. But before we do get to that, Ken, how you doing? How's everything going? And then we'll get your thoughts on some of these moves that have been made.
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. This is one of my favorite times of year is NFL free agency. The trades, the moves, all that stuff is very exciting to me. It makes the offseason easier to deal with, particularly if you're a Titans fan and what happened last month at Nissan Stadium. But all is going well with me down here in Houston, man. A lot of things going on. Of course, as a lot of people know, I do college football for the SWAC, covering Jackson State and Texas Southern and Prairie View and all of the great HBCUs down here in the southern part of the United States. So now that, the college football season is over, the NFL is over, we're both ready to dive head deep into what's happening with the Titans. And, of course, I was lucky enough to be going on the air when the breaking news came down last night with Harold Landry coming on. And thank you for those that tuned in. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning of the show, but nonetheless, we were able to have that breaking news for us. And, got a little Deshaun stuff going on as well down here in H-Town. So we can talk about that if you like as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think that'll be absolutely just fine. And for all of y'all, if you don't know, you could definitely follow my guy Ken Moore on his YouTube channel at K Moore Sports. That's where you can find him. He has some great content that he puts out. Very knowledgeable, not only on the Tennessee Titans, but on the Texas scene as far as football is concerned. So, some things that we talk about with the Houston Texans, if something happens with, definitely don't be surprised with when the Truth League report really takes off. I'm going to have Ken on for that as well as we talk about maybe some things that happen with the Dallas Cowboys or the Houston Texans, around the rest of the league. Extremely knowledgeable about what happens around the rest of the league. Also on Facebook, Ken Moore, you can find him there, and on Instagram at K Moore Sports as well. So y'all make sure y'all go give this great, classy gentleman a follow. Make sure y'all give him a follow and a subscribe as well, because again, this man puts out some great work and is extremely knowledgeable about the Tennessee Titans as a whole. So again, y'all hit my subscriber button, hit his as well. And again, make sure y'all keep smashing that like button as well. So again, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts. We talked about a little bit with with Harold Landry. I gave my thoughts what happened when the franchise tag happened. I kind of went into freak mode a little bit, and everything. I think everybody kind of called me out on it. But like you, we talked about this a little bit last night. Of course, I was at the Grizzly game while they were beating down the Pelicans, and the breaking news came out. So I know you said it on your show. What were your initial thoughts with this deal coming through?
Man, I was so happy because, all day yesterday, I had prepared my whole show to go in on J-Rob. I had prepared
Yes,
my
me
whole show to
too.
go in on J-Rob. And I was like, you can't go to Indy and have that press conference with tears in your eyes, and then you come back a week later and let one of the best outside linebackers in football walk out the door. He's 25 years old. He'll be 26 when the season starts in the fall. And that is a critical piece to this defense. And one of the things that I love about Harold Landry, he hasn't missed the game. He's missed one game in his career, I believe, and that was the first game of his rookie year. He plays over 90% of the snaps every single Sunday. I talked about that a lot the last 2 years on my shows, on other people's shows. He plays over 90% of the snaps. So he's always on the field. He's not a guy that you take out of the game on first down or on third down. He is legitimately a 4-down linebacker, and that is very rare to see in the NFL. You have a lot of guys that are run specialists. You have a lot of guys that are pass rush specialists. He is an all-around football player, and I'm so happy for him that he was able to secure the bag. Now, what I want to continue to see from Harold Landry, don't take your foot off the gas, big fella. Just because you got that payday, make sure you keep it going. And we want to see this team continue to be one of the top defenses in the league in 2022.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. And I just think, I've said this a bunch of times. You know this as well. I've said you got the premium 4 positions that are very hard to find, and they are the highest paid positions: corner, tackle, quarterback, pass rusher. Those are the 4 most expensive positions, and they are the 4 hardest positions to find in free agency or the draft. And when you have a good one, good pass rushers to elite pass rushers, they don't make it to free agency. They don't make it to that point. TJ Watt didn't make it to free agency. Joey Bosa didn't make it to free agency. Nick Bosa in San Francisco won't make it to free agency. Harold Landry did not need to make it to free agency, and I'm glad that that was not the case. So you invest in this line, you keep it together because it's the strongest point. Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. And, that defensive line was the strength of this football team. And the offense is probably going to struggle a little bit. So you got to have that defense kind of carry the offense a little bit early, because we still have a certain quarterback that I just don't think can do it, has to prove himself and prove to us that he can do it. I mean, again, I'm gonna mention this later on. It's not that I don't think he can't. I don't think he can lead us, and the defense is going to have to carry us to the promised land, because I just don't believe that number 17 can do it on the other side of the ball. So that's what I feel about that. But again, that wasn't the biggest news of the day. With that, you got Aaron Rodgers getting the extension, what he wanted. Russell Wilson getting traded to the Broncos. I mean, you see this King's ransom. This is, and I said this before, Aaron Rodgers got what he wanted. It was nice to dream about him possibly being in two-tone blue, but I think we all knew in reality that it was either going to be the Broncos or he was staying in Green Bay. Definitely shocked by Russell Wilson going to the Broncos. Was not expecting that one. Ken, what were your thoughts when you heard these 2 big blockbusters come down?
I'm going to go back to real quick to Harold Landry, because I did want to point out a couple of things, because I've seen on social media a little bit where some people say, oh, we're happy to have him back, but he got overpaid.
No, he didn't.
He didn't overpay for Harold Landry. And let me break down the difference in the 2 contracts between Harold Landry and Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree, when he signed his deal last year, was coming off an injury. Mm-hmm. He's also 28 years old. So even though he had a 5-year deal over $80 million, Bud Dupree only really has 2 guaranteed years. So it's really 2 years, $33 million guaranteed. So the Titans can get out of the Bud Dupree deal if they want to after this year and they would only have a $9 million cap hit in 2023. For Harold Landry, with him being younger, 25 years, he really has 3 years guaranteed at that $52.5 million. So it's really more of a 3-year deal at $52.5 million. Obviously, if he continues to perform at age 28, like Bud Dupree is now, then the Titans will go ahead and continue to pick up those last 2 option years. So again, don't get caught up in the $87.5 million. It's the $52.5, which is really over 3 years. That's the most important part of the deal for those that thinks he's overpaid. Now, go ahead if you got some comments on that.
And before we do get into that, and you also have to remember, y'all, think about this again. Harold Landry only wanted to be the highest paid player in the room. So
in the room,
when you really think about this, when you really think about the future years that's going to be coming, the salary cap is going to do nothing but go up. It's probably going to go up another 18 to 20 million next year. So when you really think about it, this is a bargain. This is a bargain. He's only getting 17 million a year, 17 and a half a year. And like Ken said, he's only guaranteed the first 3 years. So if there is some drop off or anything like that, after the 3rd year, you can get out. You can get out of that deal. Remember, TJ Watt is making 28 million. That's the highest paid defensive player in the game. And so Harold Landry's not even in the top 10 of pass rushers getting paid. He didn't ask to be the highest paid pass rusher. He didn't even ask to be top 5. So when you really think about it, with Big Jeff's contract that's going to be coming, and that's going to be well over $20 million, well deserved, by the way, with that, you know, that contract comes up. And then let's just say, for example, if something happens with one of them, with Landry and Dupree, and Rashad Weaver bust out, then he's going to want a big deal. So right now, y'all better appreciate this bargain, because in future years, when you see other guys getting 25, 26, 28, $30 million on the defensive side, you're going to be like, dang, this contract doesn't look as bad as I thought. And like you said, 52 million on that. Focus on that. So I'm going to let you go ahead on the other news.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Aaron Rodgers, obviously that was big news, you know, and a lot of people was hoping that he would come to Nashville. I was never a big proponent of giving up a king's ransom for Aaron Rodgers. Great regular season quarterback, but I'm from H-Town. I know what great regular seasons look like. I know what the Texans used to look like in the regular season. I know what the Rockets used to look like with James Harden in the regular season and fizzle out in the playoffs. I know what the Titans look like in the regular season and fizzle out in the playoffs. So I was not a huge – I would have been okay with Aaron coming. That's fine if you didn't have to give up the form. But obviously you would have had to do that. Jeffrey Simmons would have likely had to be included in a package for Aaron Rodgers. And so when you talk about a Jeffrey Simmons or a Kevin Byard or somebody of that ilk going back the other way, not to mention the multitude of picks that you would have to give up. I did not want to buy into that. Yeah, is he better than Ryan Tannehill? Of course. If everything being equal, you could move Tannehill's salary without any dead cap, then great, we would do that. Obviously, that was not the case. So congratulations to Aaron. He'll win another division title. They'll probably lose in the playoffs again, and he'll be a very rich guy with a very nice home in Nashville, by the way.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. And I mean, indeed. So you know, that is crazy that he got that. You know, he got $50 million now. He, by average per year, is the highest paid player. Now, Pat Mahomes' contract is stupid sick. That is the richest contract in pro sports at $450 over 10 years. So that is enormous. But what about the big shocker to me, Russell Wilson to the Broncos?
Man, there's a lot of layers to unpeel there. For those that don't know, I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan. I mean, he's probably my third favorite player in the NFL behind Derrick Henry and behind Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, I've always had a big affinity for Russell. I just love, even when he came out as a rookie, to take over the starting job as a third-round pick, and then eventually lead his team to back-to-back Super Bowls. They should have had back-to-back Super Bowl championships. But he's a tremendous guy. He's obviously a tremendous football player. I would have loved to have had him in two-tone blue if the Titans could have made a move for him. Him going to Denver, I think they probably become the second best team in the AFC West. I think they can jump the Raiders. They can probably jump the Chargers, just kind of depending on the coaching. Now, Nathaniel Hackett, obviously he came over from Green Bay. He was Green Bay's offensive coordinator. We don't know how he's going to do as a head coach, because a lot of times these coordinators get head coaching jobs and they lose their mind and they don't know what they're doing. So that's still something to be worked out. But that was a blockbuster. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks got a lot of picks in return. They got Drew Lock, who Drew Lock is Drew Lock. That's not a big component. Getting Noah Fant was really good, because now they have a quality tight end to go along with Lockett and Metcalf, assuming they keep both guys on the outside. And the other layer to the onion that I've heard and that I think may come to fruition, depending on how things go this Friday in Deshaun Watson's court case, look for Seattle to be all in on Deshaun Watson. And ultimately, if they can flip a 33-year-old Russell Wilson for a 26-year-old Deshaun Watson, give all those picks that they just got from Denver and maybe add on another pick or two to get Deshaun, now you put Seattle right back into the mix in the NFC. So I know a lot of Seattle fans are down in the dumps today. They lost Russell Wilson. They lost Bobby Wagner, who was really the quarterback of that defense. I mean, that's the heart and soul of that team. I mean, that's like taking Steve McNair and Javon Curse away from the Titans in 2003 or 2004. Those guys are the heart and soul of Seattle Seahawks football. But if they can get a Deshaun Watson to step in there, then I think they will be forgiven for Pete Carroll and those guys in the front office.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, the thing about it is, Deshaun Watson's going to be a hot commodity. A lot of teams are going to come after him if things go well for him. And now, Seattle, they have weapons. They now, like you said, they got Metcalf. They got Lockett. They got now Noah Fant. Going along. Disley is not a bad tight end either. Carson, could be a decent running game. But the thing about it is, you look at all the ammunition they have. They have a first this year. They got two. They have, 2 second-round picks now. They have 2 first-round picks next year. They got 2 second-round picks next year. So now they have a whole bunch of picks, like you said, that they could play with and use to go get a Deshaun Watson. And they really don't have to give up the farm. They'll give up some picks, but they don't really have to give up like a player and all of this and that. And they would have room, salary cap-wise, to fit him in. So, Seattle becomes a very, very dangerous player in this game as far as Deshaun Watson is concerned. And I know this won't happen. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. Obviously, the Texans are not going to trade in division, so I'm not really worried about him going to the Colts. But the reason why I bring up the Colts, and I know that's not going to happen in division, just like y'all, don't even think about it. Don't say Deshaun Watson to the Titans. That ain't gonna happen either. As much as it would be nice, as good of a player as he is, wipe that out your mind right now. It ain't going in division. However, the Colts had to make some news too. The gift that keeps on giving. Colts trade Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. And I'm still not sure if I'm used to the name just yet. The Commanders right now. I text one of my best friends, one of my homegirls, who is a diehard Washington fan, who helped me get this, by the way, this lovely trinket. The only thing is, I told her about this. She did not want to believe me. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm like, I am getting the updates from valid sources. I'm like, it is true. So Carson Wentz goes to Washington for 2 third-round picks, and I believe a 2023 third-round pick that could become a second-round pick. Based, of course, like the Colts did with what the Eagles did. Play 75% play and things like that. That second third-round pick can become a two. So I'm like, I'm fine with that too, because they can't get Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to be able to be in on Deshaun Watson. What were your thoughts about this trade?
The Colts are a mess right now, and that's good news for Tennessee fans. They are a mess right now. One of my very, very close friends is an Indianapolis Colts fan, and all along he was for keeping Carson Wentz. He's like, there's nobody better. He's not saying Carson Wentz is the end all be all, but he did have 27 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. He had like a 62% completion percentage. I think about a 95 or 96 quarterback rating.
Mm-hmm.
Weeks 4 through 12, he was the third rated quarterback, I think, in the NFL. Or weeks 3 through 15, actually. He had the third highest QBR during that 12-week stretch in the NFL. So it's not like he had a horrible year. But from everything I've read, is that it really wasn't the play on the field. Obviously, the last 2 games were terrible.
Yeah.
He got COVID at the worst possible time,
Yeah.
especially with being unvaccinated.
Yep.
Right before that Raider game, he missed that entire week of practice. He did not get activated until Sunday morning of that game, of that Oakland game. And he went out and stunk it up. He played like a guy that hadn't practiced all week.
Yep.
So the front office was absolutely livid with him about not being vaccinated. And then you get COVID at the end of the year. You go to Jacksonville and stink that game up. And Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay, the owner, they were beside themselves. And they were like, get this dude out of it. As much as Frank Wright loved him, he got overstepped on this by the GM and the owner.
Yep.
And they basically bit off their nose to spite their face. They were like, the hell with whatever we got coming in to replace him. We're getting Carson Wentz up out of here. So now they're left with a situation where either they go get a Mitch Trubisky, maybe they go get a Jimmy Garoppolo who just had shoulder surgery. Those are probably the only 2 viable options. They're not going to go get Marcus Mariota, I don't think. I don't think they're going to go get Marcus Mariota. Jameis is a possibility, although I think Jameis may end up back with the Saints this year. So it's not a lot out there now for the Colts to go get. I think it's Trubisky or Garoppolo. I think it's one of those 2 guys, and I don't know if either one of those 2 guys is better than Carson Wentz.
And honestly, unless they have to go draft a quarterback, and the problem is
they don't have a first round pick.
They don't pick until like the middle part of the second round. And so guys like Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett are probably gone. I mean, there's a pretty good chance, most likely, guys like Matt Corral will probably be gone. I mean, Ritter and Carson Strong might be there. And I stress the word might be there. But other than that, you're right. There's not a lot out there. And honestly, if you're a Titans fan, if they get and from what I'm hearing from Ian Rappaport, they will be in on the mix for Jimmy G. And I'm like, if they go get Jimmy G or Mitch Trubisky, I'm perfectly fine with that. I am fine with that. Sink the Colts even lower, because Jimmy G and Carson Wentz, I think, are like the same player. Jimmy G will screw up. He'll throw us a couple of picks. That's fine. I am okay with that.
We saw
So
what Jimmy G did in the San Francisco game against the Titans. They had a 10-point
exactly.
lead, and he led us right back in the game with a couple of bad picks.
Exactly. Now, Orlestruck comes out and says, hopefully the Texans don't get all those picks if they trade for Deshaun Watson. We will have to see. Like right now, we don't know what's going to happen in this court case or anything like that. This dude might end up in jail, and if it goes bad, which I'm thinking it will, I don't know. I am not a legal expert, so
He's
I'm
not
not,
going to jail.
So I mean, we're going to see, and we'll see what the NFL does. Roger Goodell may suspend him for a year. We see what happened with Calvin Ridley for betting on a couple of, betting on some games, getting, suspended for a year. So we'll see what comes of that and everything. But yeah, Tremaine, what's up? It's Mims. How you doing? Glad all of y'all are here. Thank y'all for tuning in with us and with Ken coming on. Obviously, I know some people. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill's favorite fanboy, Chris Frazier, said Colts like Marcus with some laughing going on. I'm like, hey, if they go get Marcus Mariota, which I don't think will happen, I mean, we can freak out Marcus Mariota. We know what he can do. So that's something I'm not really worried about. Obviously, so that's some of the big news that we've heard around the rest of the NFL. But let's kind of talk a little bit about free agency now, as free agency is a week from today. So a week from today, the tampering period will be over. At this point next week, when we come on live, free agency will be in full swing, and you'll be hearing a lot of deals coming out from Monday until this time next week and so forth. And so again, these are my biggest needs. Draft and free agency. I got offensive line. Now we got to see what happens with Ben Jones. He could be next to get signed, get re-signed. We're definitely going to see what happens with Roger Saffold or Taylor Lewan. We're going to see what goes on with that as well. Wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. Let's see. I lost Ken for just a moment. I'm pretty sure he'll be coming back in just a minute with that. But these are some of the top positions that we're going to have and everything. That's what I think they're going to do. So that's my top needs, I think, going into free agency. That's where I think we need to go. I know Ms. Mims is very happy about Harold Landry getting his deal. Like I said, Roger staying in Green Bay. No. Land in Nashville. No, he did buy land in Nashville. That is confirmed. He is building a house in Nashville. And, that happens a lot. There are a lot of celebrities and NFL players that have houses in Nashville. George Kittle has a house in Nashville. There's a couple of other guys that live in Nashville and do not play for the Titans. So just because they get land and are building houses in Nashville or getting houses in Nashville, that does not mean automatically they want to play for the Titans. That happens all the time. That happens everywhere. So you got to think about it like that. Marcus will give us 2 easy wins. Don't know about that, but I'm pretty sure we could get those against Marcus. What are your thoughts about what do you think about getting Cole Beasley? I don't think he leaves Buffalo, and we know with with COVID and with the vaccine, he's very controversial and things like that. I don't know if he would fit well from a morale standpoint as far as with with the whole thing with COVID, even though I think COVID is about to be behind us and everything. Money Mike said, I heard the Colts are trying to get Bobby Wagner. We'll definitely see about that. I mean, they got Darius Leonard, and Darius Leonard is making a boatload of money. So The man says, please cut Taylor Lewan or Jenkins. I hate to say it, Woodside. They're not cutting Taylor Lewan. I don't think they're cutting Taylor Lewan. But speaking of that, let's go into what I think the Titans can do in free agency. These are some of the top free agents that the Titans are going to have, impending free agents. Ben Jones. I had Harold Landry at the top of the list, but now he's been re-signed, so Harold Landry is good to go. Ben Jones right now is probably the next biggest priority team-wise, because I think they want to keep that offensive line as close to together as possible. So I think Ben Jones come back and it won't be as expensive. With Zach Cunningham and you got David Long, who's probably going to get paid after this year. You got Monty Rice, who definitely showed some promise and everything. I think that Jayon and Rashawn are both going to be let go. Brown might be able to come back. I think Rashawn Evans is as good as gone. Another guy to keep your eye on is Deontay Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard. I think Hilliard will definitely be back, in my opinion. Deontay Foreman, on the other hand, I think could definitely have a shot at starting elsewhere, as far as getting an opportunity to start somewhere. Randy Bullock. Are they going to go back to Sam Ficken, who I think deserves every opportunity to re-win the job? Because I think if it wasn't for the injury after Tampa Bay in the preseason, that was Sam Ficken's job to lose. And so with Bullock and Ficken, we'll see what happens with the kicker situation. Dane Cruikshank, may be able to come back as well. Ola Adeni, with the news that they're not tendering they're not doing a restricted free agent tender for Derek Roberson. So he'll be a free agent. I think that might set up for Ola Adeni to come back. He did some things good on special teams. Definitely could also help in the pass rush as well. So those are just a few of the big name Titan impending free agents that are scheduled to become free agents in this offseason when free agency starts on Monday. And we're waiting on Ken to come back on in just a bit as well. So these are the top free agents that the Titans have, and we'll see what they do. Right now, I do think Ben Jones will be back. Again, I think maybe later, depending on what happens with the draft, maybe they bring back Jayon on a one-year deal again. And I think I have Ken back now. Yep, I have Big Ken back now. So, Ken, welcome back. Was just going into free agency, kind of talking about some of the impending free agents that are going to be available for other teams. Was talking about, obviously, I think they're going to try to get back Ben Jones and keep his offensive line together. I think Brown and Evans are probably gone. Maybe, depending on what happens in free agency in the draft, maybe they bring back Jayon Brown on another one-year deal. I know the Titans are definitely going to try to bring back Deontay Foreman. I think Dontrell Hilliard will be back because he did some very good things. I think Darrington Evans is on his way out. He'll probably be a cut casualty as well. The kicker situation is going to be interesting. Do they go in and resign Bullock, or do they go with the unknown with Sam Ficken, who I think would have had the job if he did not get hurt? Cruikshank, that's going to be another good question. If they bring him back, we probably will need some depth at safety. And Ola Adeni. These are just a few of the free agents that are scheduled to be free agents. Of course, they brought back NWI and Logan Woodside and Tier Tart. With Woodside and NWI, I'm like, whoop-de-doo. Like, woo.
Well, I
Who
think
cares?
Tierra Tort, he's a good rotation guy
Now
on
that
that
one, yeah,
defensive front. Yeah,
that
he's a
one,
good
yeah.
rotation guy.
I am
And
okay. Yeah, Tier Tart, I'm fine with.
yeah, Logan Woodside. I mean, I think we need to upgrade the backup quarterback position, but for now, I mean that's fine. You can have him going into camp battling for a spot. The big guys, obviously, I think are Ben Jones and Deontay Foreman. I think you definitely want to have those guys back if at all possible, if they're not too expensive. Um, as far as wide receiver and tight end, I think those may be areas that we look to improve in the draft. A lot will depend on Des Fitzpatrick. You hope that he can improve this offseason and become a rotation guy that we can depend on. As far as the kicker situation and Randy Bullock, I'm not a big Randy Bullock guy. I know he had a pretty solid year for us, but I do not trust him in the clutch. I just don't trust him in the clutch. And he doesn't have a big leg anymore. He used to have a leg where he could drive it from 52 to 55 yards. He would be a guy in his old days when he was with the Texans, he'd hit a 55-yarder and then miss a 35-yarder. But he doesn't have that distance anymore. And that distance is very important, especially when you look at a guy like McPherson with Cincinnati, or you look at, a Justin Tucker with Baltimore. Those guys can hit it from 55 to 60 yards. So once you get to the 40-yard line, you're already in scoring position if you have a kicker with a big leg. For the Titans, they have to get darn near to the 30-yard line just to hope that they can make a field goal from 47 or 48 yards out. So I would not be opposed to, actually, I'm a proponent of, go draft the best kicker in college football. I don't know who that is. Maybe you do. But in the 5th round, 6th round, go draft the best kicker available like Cincinnati did last year. And that gives you an added weapon to your offensive arsenal that you can have in your back pocket. If we had a guy like McPherson with 6 minutes to go in the ball game against Cincinnati, we could have attempted a 52-yard field goal to try to take the lead and allow the defense to hold down the Cincinnati offense the rest of the game. But instead, we had to go for it because we didn't have a kicker that could hit from that distance. So having a kicker with a strong leg and distance, I think, is critical to a championship football team.
Yeah, and that's why I think if all else fails, I think Sam Ficken does at least deserve a shot because it would have been his job. And I believe against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, going into the half of that game, I think he drilled, I want to say, it was either a 55 or maybe a 58-yarder. He drilled it, I think. I can't remember what it was. I know it was beyond 50, and he drilled it. And as soon as I saw that, I said, that's our kicker. I'm like, that's our guy. So I think Sam Ficken deserves every opportunity to get his job back and win the job. Bullock, I think, I understand you're not the fan of him. I think he was consistent, as some people have said. Now, there is a kicker, I think, from LSU by the name of Cade York, who I think was at the combine. I'm not sure what his stats are, so I wouldn't want anybody to quote me on that. That's something that maybe as we do some position look at as we lead up to the draft, maybe that's something that I'll try to take a look at, maybe seeing what kickers were at the combine and what could happen as far as that. But I mean, you might be able to get a kicker as an undrafted free agent if you don't draft them. Maybe I think K York might be the best one that I saw. I think there were only like maybe 2 or 3 kickers at the combine. So that is an excellent point when it does come to that. So again, these are my top needs as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people are talking about go get Gronk. I highly doubt that's going to happen. I mean, Gronk is either going to go wherever Brady is, and at 615 to say probably going to Buffalo, it wouldn't shock me with that.
So, I wouldn't count out Gronk, man. He's got that New England connection with John Robinson and Vrabel. Nashville's a great city. A lot of guys live in Nashville. I wouldn't count out Gronk. I mean, I'm not saying I want to go spend a whole bunch of money on Gronk because you have to babysit Gronk like you babysit Julio Jones with the injuries and stuff. So do you really want Julio Jones and Gronk that you got to kind of, you know, make sure you have the ER department on the sideline every game?
Mm-hmm.
You may have to have multiple blue tents on the sideline for those guys, but I think Gronk would be a nice addition. He can definitely help in the running game and the blocking because we know our tight ends were terrible blocking this year. I mean, Swaim and Ferkser, they're just awful blockers, which I think really made Derrick Henry struggle early in the year. So I think if you could get a Gronk at a reasonable price, incentive based, based on playing time and things like that, I would not completely rule him out. I know a couple of people last night on my show were talking about O.J. Howard as a
Mm-hmm.
possibility out of Alabama. Uh, he's not the game changer that most people thought he would be coming into the NFL, but I think he's still young enough where he can be productive. And you just need someone that's productive at that position.
Yeah.
The offensive line, I think, is the most critical piece, and you mentioned it there. Ben Jones at center. What do you do with Roger Saffold and Taylor Lewan? Do you bring those guys back at the high salaries that they already are at, or do you ask them to possibly restructure for the betterment of the football team? And would they agree to that?
Yeah, and before we talk about the tight ends, I'm glad you brought that up because this is something that I kind of just put together last minute as far as what I think some possible moves will be. And I know I probably don't have the figures correct, but this is like a roundabout way of doing some things. So I think, first of all, some cuts are going to be made. And I think the three main cuts that are going to happen is Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins will be cut. That saves 6.9 million against the cap. Roger Saffold at 10.4, not 10.3. I made a mistake on that, y'all. Against the cap, he's probably going to get cut. And then your favorite guy, Kendall Lamb, is probably gone as well at 3.2. So I mean, right there, you're right at about $20 million, and with the Titans being about eight, I want to say 7 to 8 million in the red. These three cuts. Now you're about maybe 12 million up instead in the cap. So now you're 12 million under, and then a couple of possible restructures. Taylor Lewan is definitely one. Zach Cunningham, I think, is automatic because I think they have to bring him back. They need him because he came in and was automatically doing well. Him and David Long, I think, will work so well together. And rumor came out as well that the Titans may be looking at restructuring Kevin Byard and Derrick Henry. Now, again, y'all have to remember when you restructure deals, this is just money getting pushed down the line or some of that money being turned into a signing bonus so they get paid right away. It's not a pay cut. And so that's the difference. Now, I think with Byard and Henry, those are good ideas because I think these guys, you can afford to hold on to them for another year or two or anything like that, especially Byard because he's so influential to this defense. Derrick Henry, I think, has a few more good years left before he really starts to decline. We'll have to see how he comes back from this injury we saw in the playoff game. Wasn't really all the way himself in that
Right.
game. So we got to see how he does with the offseason. But I think those are a couple of restructure candidates. So before we talk about the positions of need and going into some free agent options, what did you think of my cuts and did I miss anybody?
No, I don't think you missed anyone. Zach Cunningham will be interesting. He has 1 year, $10 million left on his deal. So if you want to extend him out, which I'm a huge Zach Cunningham fan, I think he's one of the best linebackers in the AFC South. I mean, he was one of the best Houston Texans team. That's one ex-Texan I didn't mind getting. And when we were able to get him off of waivers, I mean, I was jumping for joy in my living room. So If you can extend Zach Cunningham for another 2 or 3 years, drop that $10 million salary hip down. I think that'll be absolutely tremendous. I mean, think about this. Rashard Evans has been our starting middle linebacker for the last, 3-4 years?
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Cunningham comes in off the waiver wire and takes this spot almost from Jump Street. And so much that Rashard Evans was inactive for the playoff game.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. Rashard Evans was inactive for the playoff game. He was a healthy scratch for the playoff game. So, Rashard is gone. Jayon is probably gone as well because you got Monty Rice also, who's going to vie for that backup inside linebacker position. So Zach Cunningham, I think, is definitely a keeper. Absolutely. I mean, that's a no-brainer. He's a keeper. You could restructure Derrick Henry, give him some more cash up front, and then push a little bit down the line. I think he only has 2 years left on his deal this year and next year. So if you want to extend him out for a third year, you could definitely do that with him. Kendall Lamb actually was surprisingly okay for us in emergency situations last year. I mean, shockingly, he didn't get Ryan Tannehill killed. So we'll see what happens there. We got to see what happens with the young fella, Dylan Redunce, who we drafted last year out of North Dakota State. Is he going to play right tackle or is he going to play left guard if we let Saffold go? So, you got to figure out where does Dylan Redunce, what's his best position, and that can dictate what happens with the rest of that offensive line. Because if you can plug Redunce in at right tackle, then possibly you could ask Saffold to restructure and try to come back at a lower salary. If he can't play right tackle and his best position is left guard, then you just let Saffold go. You stick Dylan Redunce in there at left guard, and then you still got to play around with that right tackle position, Quisenberry or whoever you're going to fill in at that right tackle position. So you got to figure out what Dylan Redunce can do for you. And then, of course, as you mentioned, what are we going to do in the draft? Because you got a first-round pick and a third-round pick. You need wide receiver help. You need offensive line help still. And then going to the other side of the field, you talked about Jackrabbit Jenkins. I think every position on the defense is settled except for that cornerback spot opposite Fulton. Do you go with Jackrabbit? I thought Caleb Farley was a terrible pick. Nothing against the kid, but you come in injured, and the first game you start, you tear your ACL and you're injured again. So I really don't have high expectations for Caleb Farley this year because he's playing a speed position and he's coming off an ACL along with a back injury. So I don't think you can stick him in and expect him to be a day one starter. So you got to find out who can play that position. Do you go with Brown again? I mean, not Brown, Jackson again on that side. I thought Jackson played very well, Chris Jackson. So that may be kind of a plug and play on that opposite side of Jackrabbit. But yeah, I think Jackrabbit could be gone because he didn't play well enough to deserve the salary. Oh, by the way, I think Malcolm Butler's trying to get back in the league. So maybe a possibility.
I have heard about that. Now, Dylan Redunce, I want him to play tackle. That's just me. I want Dylan Redunce at right tackle. I think that would solve a lot of problems. And then if you let Saffold go, yes, you probably have like an Aaron Brewer who can kind of step in, who has a little bit of experience, maybe not great, but has some experience. Now, of course, they could go into the draft and go ahead and draft a Zion Johnson, and he might be ready to start right now at guard. And that, that's a pretty nice story that I've seen about Zion Johnson. We'll definitely talk more about some of the draft picks going into the, later on in the coming weeks with that. But Dylan Redunce, I think, is a right tackle. You know what? I have to be on the other side when it comes to Caleb Farley. I was shocked when the pick was made. I was like, okay, I think we got some value with him. Yeah, he was coming off of back surgery and things like that. But, in training camp. He was there at training camp. They were trying to kind of slow him in. Got him in a little bit against Jacksonville, and with things going down at that position, they kind of had to start him against Buffalo. I was really looking forward to seeing how he was going to do under the lights. I was very excited to see him, and then he go. Unfortunately, towards ACL, I think that it was just unfortunate for him, and I just my heart just dropped for him because I'm like, I really wanted to see what he could do. I thought that I thought at the end of the year, I thought the plan was Jack Rabbit starts it at the beginning, and at the end, it's Farley and Fulton. You have your bookend corners for the next at least 5 to 7 years, and you really look good when it comes to that. And so, um, but we'll have to see. I think the Titans are very confident in Caleb Farley coming back. Obviously, he got injured in October, so that did get him a jump start on rehab. I think they have been positive as far as how his rehab is going. As far as that, Dylan Radunz, they basically said, "Is he ready to start right now?" No, but he's going to have every opportunity to earn that starting role. So,
Right.
hey, earn your keep. Earn your keep, big fella. And what I want to bring up right quick, we're going to start with the free agency, start with the offensive line. And a lot of people bring up an interesting name, and I saw this, and I was like, And that name would be, do you go back to Dennis Kelly? Do you go back and resurrect the Undertaker? Do you do you bring that urn and resurrect the dead man? Do you bring him back? Shout out to the Undertaker, by the way, getting inducted into the 2022 WWE Hall of Fame, by the way. I mean, Dennis Kelly, Riley Reef, Nate. So these are just a couple of names that, as I look down the free agency list, I don't know if they do anything as far as that. I think they'll focus more on the draft.
Right.
Could the Titans bring back Dennis Kelly if possible?
Man, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. I mean, he should have never been let go to begin with. I think he would have solved a lot of problems for us last year, but now he's a year older. Um, I don't know. If you didn't want him last year, why would you want him this year? So I mean, I think that ship has sailed on Dennis Kelly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see if that is the case. Be like, what? Let's go correct our mistake. Let's go apologize to Dennis Kelly and see, will he come back home? Dennis Kelly, come on home, come
Yep,
back
yep.
home to us.
Yeah.
You know.
Connor Williams, a guy I'm familiar with from the University of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
played with the Cowboys. He was okay in the NFL. I mean, he hadn't had a stellar career. I
Right.
know a lot of people would always say, he was the worst guy on the Cowboys offensive line. And thus he's a free agent now.
Yeah.
So he really has to work at his craft to improve. A lot of room for improvement there, but maybe joining a veteran offensive line, you can get him for cheap, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
he can be a guy that can come in and compete. So I would not rule out Connor Williams.
Yeah, and I would probably say, it's a little bit expensive. Maybe either Brandon Sheriff, Riley Reef, those could be some options. Maybe a right tackle if you don't think Dylan Radunz is ready, or you think he's better suited at guard. That is something that I'm interested in seeing. But I think they probably will go offensive line more in the draft, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion with that. Foreman, yes, I hope they bring Foreman back. And I do have a list of a couple of kickers that were at the combine. Another position that we talked about, of course, is tight end, which I think will be a big emphasis in the next couple of days or week. You got guys like Zach Ertz. And before we even go further, I mean, obviously we've seen with the franchise tag, a lot of teams are valuing the tight end. David Njoku, from the Browns, Mike Gesicki of the Dolphins, and Dalton Schultz of the Cowboys all got the franchise tag yesterday. So those are three options that are out. I mean, you got Zach Ertz, who you probably could have picked up last year. OJ Howard, who we've talked about before. I think there is still some potential with him. I just think he needs to be in the right situation. A underrated name that a lot of people haven't talked about yet that I think would be interesting. There's two: Kyle Rudolph and Tyler Conklin. Kyle Rudolph, who had a lot of success in Minnesota, I
All
think
right.
would be just a solid get as far as the tight end can catch the ball, can block. I think will be solid. You probably won't have to spend much for him. I've heard a lot of people talk good about Gerald Everett, formerly of the Seahawks. Could be a nice pickup. And Evan Ingram, I think, is probably the dark horse, probably the one that's unknown. We know he's a good receiving threat, but we don't know what he could do blocking wise. As far as that, he played with the Giants out of Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure AJ Brown would not mind
Mm-hmm.
with this particular pick. But tight end, am I missing somebody?
No, I think you got it on point there. I would anticipate Zach Ertz going back to Arizona. He was a big part of their offense after they made the trade for him mid-season. So, and listening to a couple of interviews with him in the offseason, he seemed to really love it, with Kingsbury and Kyler Murray and D-Hop and that chemistry that they have going on down there. Of course, Kyler Murray's got his own situation going right now, but I think Zach Ertz likes it there, so I would expect him to return to Arizona. We talked about OJ Howard earlier. With Gronk leaving Tampa, they may put an emphasis on bringing him back, or if they've been, too disappointed with him, they may not elect to bring him back. It's interesting, all the tight ends getting the franchise tag this year, when a certain tight end in two-tone blue couldn't get the franchise tag last offseason because, you can't tag a tight end, a lot of people
Right.
said.
We
Okay. So we saw how that turned out. Mo Alley Cox, Mark brings up there. So there's some good tight ends out there. Again, it depends on how much, right? Do you
yeah,
want to invest in a free agent or do you want to go with the rookie?
and I think they're gonna go both. I think they're gonna invest in a veteran, and I think they're gonna draft a tight end because this tight end class in the draft is deep. This is a good tight end class that's coming out. So I like the Titans' chances of doing very well with tight end as far as I'm
Where do
concerned.
you select the tight end? Do you go with a tight end first round, third round, fourth round? Where?
I would say since we don't have a second round pick, I'd start in round three. I do not I have not seen too many mock drafts, and it's very few that I've seen any tight ends go in round one. So I think the run of tight ends might start, I would probably say the middle of round two, further back. I think the Titans have a good shot at getting a very good quality tight end in either rounds 3 and 4, and who could start. I don't know where Trey McBride will be from Colorado State, but I think he'll probably be the first tight end off the board. But you got guys like Greg Dulcich, who performed well from UCLA, Jeremy Ruckert, who a lot of people have talked about from Ohio State. You also got young guys like Connor Hayward, who turned into a tight end, who was a fullback at Michigan State. So, I mean, he could be very versatile. But there's a lot of good tight ends, and I know I missed a few. There's a lot of nice looking tight ends from the combine that I did pick up on everything. And I think now here's an interesting thing, too. Even if they draft and pick up a tight end, I think the one tight end that should come back, and even though he's been injured, is Michael Pruitt. Now, he is coming off of an injury. So the question is, will he be able to be productive after that injury? So that is going to be a very interesting question. How does he respond to that injury? So that's going to be tight end is going to be a very, very interesting position to really look at as far as this free agency in the draft. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Titans do in free agency because it's really going to shape up where they go in the draft pretty much. It's going to be a blueprint to design. It's going to basically show what the grand design is going to be. Wide receiver is another spot, and I mainly looked at guys that could be in the slot or could play outside if you take out AJ or Julio at some point. I know probably not going to happen. I put Juju Smith-Schuster on there. Probably not going to happen. Although he would be nice in the slot. That would be a nice three-headed monster with him, AJ, and Julio. But again, injury and head case, we know he loves social media to death, and that's something that Mike Vrabel is not the biggest fan of. Another guy from Pittsburgh, James Washington. I think he might end up staying in Pittsburgh, but that's not a bad option either. I liked him out of Oklahoma State. Christian Kirk would be interesting, unless Rondell Moore takes his spot. Jamison Crowder has always been a reliable slot receiver. We do need that, although I prefer we need a guy with some speed to him. And I'm going with the hometown kid. I just think if he comes back to the South, back to Tennessee, he's close to his hometown right here in Memphis, Anthony Miller. I just think bring him home. Bring him home. He's got family here in Memphis. He played at my alma mater, the University of Memphis. Bring him home would be nice, but I don't know. You saw him a little bit in Houston. Am I crazy with some of these picks? These are just, like I said, slot guys that I think could play outside, maybe could develop. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not too far off my rocker.
Well, I do like Christian Kirk. He's probably my favorite of the guys that you have listed there. But I talked about this a little bit on my show last night. The Titans need an influx of speed on the outside.
Yes, absolutely.
AJ Brown has dealt with knee injuries and ankle injuries. Obviously, we know Julio Jones with his injury situation. We don't have anyone that can stretch the field. Khalif Raymond, even though he wasn't a big-time receiver, he gave us that threat where he could stretch the defense and allow those underneath routes to be more open. And every once in a while, you see Tannehill go over the top to Khalif Raymond, and he has some nice hands, and he's doing a really good job in Detroit right now. So you need a guy with speed that can take the top off the defense. We thought Cam Batson might be that guy. Racy McRath, we thought he may be that guy. With a name like Racy, you would hope that he would be fast. But those guys just haven't panned out in that role. And I think you may have to dive into the draft for a guy like that just because of the expense at the position. Because we saw what Mike Williams just got paid with San Diego.
Yep.
3 years, $60 million, $20 million a year, $40 million guaranteed. Yep. Well, AJ Brown's going to command probably 4 years, $80 million, 4 years, $88 million. So you got AJ on one side. I don't know if AJ's going to get paid this offseason or not. You got Julio on the other side. I think you need a young, cheap, fast guy. I love Christian Kirk. I just don't know how inexpensive or how expensive he's going to be. James Washington, I think, is another guy. Juju's too slow. I mean, he's he's a possession guy, but he doesn't really, he doesn't separate really. And he really hasn't been that good since Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh.
I agree.
Because remember, Antonio used to command that double coverage and take the top off the defense. And then Juju had that one-on-one ability, but he suffered a couple of injuries in Pittsburgh. I just don't think he's the same receiver that he used to be.
Yeah, and I definitely hear you with that. And that's why I think honestly the draft is the place to go, and I think they need to draft 2 receivers. I think they definitely need to draft high in round 1. There's a lot of receivers that I do like out of this draft class. Obviously, if y'all watched my combine review the other night, if you haven't, go check that out. The combine review from Monday. episode 221. 222 if I'm not mistaken. So I love Chris Olave out of Ohio State. I don't know if he's going to be there at 26 now because he did so well at the combine. Maybe another guy like a Treylon Burks, even though some people are down on him after not having a great performance in the combine. So that is going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, I absolutely love this kid. He would definitely be great as well. Of course, another guy from my alma mater, Calvin Austin. I would like him maybe in the third or fourth round. That dude has some speed on him and some return ability. So that's definitely something I would take a look at. So I don't know.
And you know who looked really good for us last year was Marcus Johnson. I mean, when he was inserted into the lineup before he got hurt, I mean, another kid out of Texas, played for the Colts a little bit, but he just has not been able to stay healthy. But that is a kid that he's got good hands, he's got good size, he's got really good speed. I think one game he had like 5 catches for 100 yards for us. I don't know if that was against the Colts. I think it was against the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. I may be mistaken. I'm not sure. But Marcus Johnson could be in the mix for that third, fourth wide receiver slot like he was last year. But, man, he's just got to stay on the field. He's just got to stay healthy, and that's just the problem with him. He hadn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely with that. And Ken, I know you got to probably get ready to get out of here in just a couple minutes. I'm going to run over a couple of names of kickers that were at the combine that could be in the draft. Cameron Dicker from Texas is one, made 86.7% of his field goals. Kay York made 81%, 82% from LSU. Gabe Bierkick from Oklahoma, who I thought I saw him in the game against Texas, pretty good kicker as well. I know there's another guy, looks like Nick Skiba from Wake Forest, hit 89%. Finished last season, hit 92% of his kicks, but has been for his entire career close to 90% at Wake Forest. So those are a couple of kickers that may have been at the combine or could be possible draft picks or pick up in undrafted free agents. So that is just a couple of kickers that might be available, some young kickers that they could definitely go with. But I mean, this is going to be a very interesting offseason. We're definitely going to see what the Tennessee Titans do with that in mind, and we're going to see what they decide to do, and it's probably going to shape up to see where they go in the draft. So, Ken, I'm going to let you get out of here on that. I think we're going to get ready to wrap this show up as far as that concerned. Do you have anything big coming up?
Nothing real big coming up, man. As news breaks around the NFL, I mean, it's been a crazy couple of days here with all the quarterbacks taken out. I think it's going to be probably even crazier, over the weekend going into next week. So, as news breaks, we'll have it for you. You can follow me on my YouTube channel at Kmore Sports if you haven't done so. Once the show is over, hop over to my YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then also on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Kmore Sports and also on Instagram at Kenmore Sports. So those are the platforms that I'm on. Also on Facebook, just hit me up at Kenmore, send me a friend request, and then I'll pop you guys in there as well. But yeah, man, it should be a fun off season. Always great chatting it up with you. You know your stuff on the free agents, on the draft. I'm not a real big draft guy. I'll follow some guys, but I don't get deep into the weeds. I know you spend tons of time researching that, and y'all got to give Chris a lot of love, man. He puts in a lot of work researching all these cats in college, and he's as good as any of these guys on TV, McShay or any of these guys that do the draft, man. So you do a tremendous job. And I really appreciate it because it's not my thing. I don't really get into the combine and the draft. Let me know when they get to the NFL, and then I'm ready to watch them, and then I can dissect them and pick them apart at that point. So unless it's the running back position, now I'm usually pretty good with the running backs because that's what I played. So I try to keep my eye out for those guys. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
What we do in the
absolutely.
first round, the third round, I don't know where I think we go offensive line in the first round. And I think Ben Jones is kind of the key. Do we
Yeah,
bring, because I've seen a couple of mock drafts with some centers that we
yeah,
may take in the
Lindenbaum.
first round.
Yeah,
So
Lindenbaum from Iowa. I like that kid. I like Trevor Penning. He is nasty. And I mean nasty. Look into my eyes, y'all. Nasty. And I would want to be across from him. So yeah, there's a couple of good. I think they go offense in the first couple of rounds, first, third, and maybe early fourth round. I think they go offense. Obviously, Josh, he kind of feels the way I felt. Even though with Landry coming back, I like it. I just think the Titans right now, this is what I think is going to happen. They'll win the division, and Tannehill will strike out in the playoffs again. That's just, I'm sorry, y'all. That's just me. I Again, it's not that he can't. I don't think he can. Tannehill cannot win us a Super Bowl. Now, again, I had my girl Miss Haley Thornhill on last week, and we did make a bet. So it is official, and everybody can hold me accountable. If Tannehill shocks me and the world and wins the Super Bowl, I will come on. I will buy a Tannehill jersey. I will come on. I will tweet this episode to Tannehill, to Kevin Byard, to all the guys on the team. Hopefully they'll come and watch. And I will officially make my apology to Ryan Tannehill and to the world. I will do that. But if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, which right now is looking pretty good for me, don't get me wrong, I want the Titans to win. And if Tannehill does win the Super Bowl, I will happily apologize. I will happily take the loss. But I don't see it happening. And she will get to admit and wear a Titans and Truth shirt and will admit that Enforcer is the truth. And I am a genius. I'm like, because I think I know. I'm gonna be like Roman Reigns. Acknowledge me. So that's what I'm going to have with that. So everybody, on behalf of Mr. Kenmore, thank y'all for tuning into the show. We definitely have some big things coming up very soon. The Truth League report. We're going to be talking about some stuff around the rest of the league. That's going to be starting back up. I'm trying to figure out what day is good to where a lot of you will watch. So I'm going to be definitely branching out, talking about some of the other teams in the league and some of the other stuff that's going down. Also, definitely stay tuned for I got a new show concept coming up. So again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe and make sure you smash that like button. But everybody, I think that's gonna just about do it, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to Titans and Truth. I am Chris, aka Blue Enforcer, and I leave y'all with this thank you. Thank y'all for helping me. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for helping me get to close to 1,200. Let's march toward 2,000, and I can bring out some more stuff for you. So good night, y'all, and let's tighten up because that's all we know how to do.